Yo, what's up? So it's been a while since I've talked about Earth 2, and there's a good reason for that. If you've seen any of, Kira TV's videos, or I think Callum Upton made a video talking about the absolute shambles that the not just the company but the community are in right now, with some key figures leaving the company and a lot of, people that have invested into the scam are starting to leave as well. It's not a surprise that there's not a lot to talk about, especially since it's been like 3 weeks since our favorite coper Arya has made a video. So, it's been pretty light on the news when it comes to Earth 2, but it is nearing the end of the month. So I thought I'd go over the changes that they've made this month so far. There's only three of them, so this probably will be a shorter video, just going over their, like I do every month, going over the updates they've made, talking about how useless they are and how stupid it is that they're even putting them on here, and how inept they are as developers and as a company. Their lead especially is apparently brain dead. Um, but that being said, if you enjoy this type of content or you just like to hear about this kind of stuff, please like and subscribe to the channel. I make a lot of videos, not just about Earth 2. I make other videos about blockchain stuff. That's something that Earth 2 doesn't have, is any crypto or anything. I make other videos about other gaming things. Yeah, just check out my channel. I have a lot of playlists if you want to look into that stuff. But yeah, let's just go over these. Let's go over some of these changes and see what they are and how useless they are. So we got the 5th of November, we added description search option for the hollow building editor. Okay, like again, it's the same thing as their filters. Like adding ways that you can search or like sort things is it's like 101 level development stuff, right? Like it's not that hard. The only time where it could get really difficult is if you're having to, look at a lot of information from a database and sort it that way. That's why like um Google, for example, is very, very complicated with how its search algorithm works, or like YouTube, stuff like that. But just like allowing people to filter like a very base thing, like they added new filters for like jewels and stuff. Like that stuff's not that hard to do, right? That stuff is super basic shit that any like person that went to like a 3 month boot camp for computer science would be able to do. Like this is just basic shit that should have already been in there, to be honest. Fixed an issue in the hollow building editor, making it impossible to place hollow buildings on small properties. So I'm curious as to what that really means. Like, so is there properties intended to not allow hollow buildings? If so, then they that feels like it's hindering a lot of people's kind of vision for what they had going into this game, right? Like if you bought tiles expecting to be able to build on it, but your land is too small to build on it, like that doesn't even really make sense, since these tiles are supposed to represent like real life areas. You should be able to build whatever you want on those areas. And if it is an unintended thing, like where for whatever reason that people weren't able to build on these small properties, like how do you even make that an issue, right? Like how is it possible that you make it unable for someone to build on there? You must have limited it in some way or fucked up real bad on the implementation. So a little confused how something like this even happens, but they're not very descriptive in what happens, like how small and was it only in specific instances. Like it doesn't really seem like they know or care to explain. And I also talk about this a lot in these videos, is sometimes they'll put things on here just to make it sound like they did something when really they didn't. Okay. So keep that in mind as well. Fixed an issue not allowing users to buy in Bolivia with a credit card. So does this mean buy in Bolivia, like people who live in Bolivia were unable to purchase things with a credit card, or does it mean that land or like tiles in the Bolivia zone couldn't be purchased? I'm a little bit more sympathetic if they had an issue with like allowing credit cards from Bolivia, because a lot of different countries have a lot of different laws when it comes to how this stuff works, so it can get pretty complicated. But if it's something like the land couldn't be purchased in the game with the credit card, how do you I some of these things, I don't know how you actually let those things happen. Seems kind of strange, but whatever. So yeah, this was looks like 2 weeks or so after this update here, and they had three changes, and one of them was ultra basic. So I wonder if they're running out of developers. But then just 6 days later, we have a new update. Added crafting to the resource section. So I guess this is a question for all you Earth 2 simps out there. Did they actually let you craft stuff with resources? I can't imagine, since there's not really any resources to craft with. or did they just add a blank section? It's kind of like a teaser, right? I'm willing to bet that they just added like a blank section where it's like, oh, this is where crafting will exist when it's in the game. Like that's just so useless. Why would you ever implement something? Like think about this. If you're making something, why would you ever implement something that's going to be in the game later before that thing is in the game, right? Because based on other videos I've made and other things I've seen, they do have like a test server or like a test environment where people can go and look at that stuff. Why would they not keep it in there and actually put this out to production? Like that would be such, like in my opinion, that would be such a disingenuous either rookie or disingenuous move to put something that's not implemented, like a hint at that into like a production environment. So putting like a crafting tab before there's crafting in the game, that is wholly unimaginable to me. Like how could you possibly think that's a good idea? Because one, you're just like being dumb and putting incomplete things into your production, or you're trying to tease it out of people like, see, look what's gonna happen. Because as we've seen in other videos, people are kind of leaving en masse, right? So it's a big issue, I think, that this is even an update. Like, and also after adding a tab there without any implementation is also a stupid fucking update to even put. Like, why would you even say that you did that? Like, it does nothing. Like, it's so basic to even like try to do something like that. It's so stupid. Added shards, good job. So they added another, monetization method. It looks like added tier 2 jewels as well as jewels quality, cracked, cloudy, common, clear, luminous. Okay, so jewel quality, I'm guessing this affects um how well they affect the mentor and stuff like that. Again, kind of useless. Like what's the point of even adding different things that are supposed to increase your essence acquisition if there's nothing you can really do with essence or ether at this point, right? It's not really, there's no purpose. Brown jewels changed into green jewels. Again, like this is I guess as far as a changelog goes, this is something that you might want to put in there, but this is such an innocuous thing. Like, who gives a fuck, right? You just change the name and change the color. Like, that's literally all they'd have to do is go into like the database or wherever they're storing this information, change that color variant, and then add a new image for what they want that jewel to look like on the bazaar, whatever, or like um, in your like resources tab or whatever. Added new colors to tier 2 jewels. Fantastic. Again, like I don't know what else I can say about this. It's like useless, right? Again, there's nothing that you can do with jewels, so I don't know why they keep it's like they're updating things that are useless instead of making implementations for things that would actually make this something worthwhile, right? How to updated with crafting tutorial. Okay. Essence used to craft will be recorded in the transaction page. Okay. So these are just updates that are supposed to go along with this crafting thing right here. So now there's a how-to for crafting, and then there's also the essence you use to craft. Fantastic. Added filter any into the marketplace filtering system. I love it. So they're adding more filters. Fantastic. Wait, also added filter any. So I guess they didn't have a way to default back to like searching for all before. Like again, that just seems like such a basic thing to fuck up. Fixed empty tiles and owned properties being selectable at the same time under specific circumstances. Empty tiles and owned properties being selected at the same time. Um, yeah, I mean, like if you're like, I don't know why that would be such a problem, right? If someone was hovering like unselect or unowned and select and like owned properties, like you would just default to, if they tried to do some action, only doing it on their own properties. So I wonder if people were able to, if this was just returning some kind of error, or if people were actually able to make changes into unowned properties, because that could be a really bad exploit if that was a thing. Fix some links on the how-to page not being accessible due to scroll position being changed. Okay, I don't know how you fucked that up. So you had links unreachable because of the way that you updated the how-to page, I guess by adding this crafting tutorial. So that's kind of weird that you fucked that up, because this should have been something that never made it past like QA, or even in your first implementation you should have seen that and been like, oh shit, that shouldn't even be implemented yet. So I don't know how you fucked that up. Fixed a UX bug displaying some flags and buttons wrongly aligned in the country statistic page. Again, this is such a minor thing that I would hesitate even putting it on a changelog. Like they basically is saying like these flags, I don't know if it was exactly here, but imagine like some of these flags were like a couple pixels like not aligned. In that case, you just fix the issue. Like it's so minor and so easy to fix that like why would you even bother putting it in here? Other than to like pad the way that this looks, because obviously it looks like dog shit with just like these dumbass fucking updates. Added essence filters for the transaction page. Why are they always not able to add filters? Like I don't understand. How come they can't fix their filters? Like it's so fucking stupid. Added quality filter. Okay, so this one I guess makes a little bit more sense. Although if you add something like so before they didn't have quality until this update, right? They actually created quality on the jewels for this update. But let me pose you a question. If you already have ways to filter through all the other attributes on jewels or whatever the fuck, and then you add quality, why wouldn't you add the filter along with this update here? Why would it take you a whole ass week to add that filter, right? Like that, like does that seem reasonable to you? Or you think like there must be some process by which that they would understand that you need to, if you implement a new attribute to something, you need to add a way to filter off that, unless you don't want there to be a way to filter off that. But it seems like they did, since they added it later. So this filtering option should have already been here. Like, and it would have been really easy to actually do that, because all they have to do is copy and paste all the code from what they used before for filtering other things like size or whatever the fuck you can filter jewels by color. And then instead of that, instead of like their keyword being color, it's now going to be quality. Like it should have been such an easy fucking thing. Like copy and paste, like literally less than a minute to fix. Updated description for the resource page. Okay. Meaningless. Fix the wrong formatting for the E2 logo when using mobile devices. This is the same thing as what I'm talking about down here, where it's like how, I guess it depends on how bad the formatting was messed up. But if it's literally just off by like a few pixels, you just change that. You don't put anything else. You're done. Don't just change it. And then you don't need to put it in here because no one actually gives a fuck. Fix spelling mistakes for filters in the profile page. That's rough. Fixed an issue sending wrong emails notifications when receiving and placing bids. So this is pretty bad, right? Like, how many ways can we interpret this, right? So either it's sending inaccurate information in the emails to the correct people, okay? And that's obviously bad, because if someone is like getting bids and they're like, oh, I want to accept that, but it's like the wrong information, then it could lead to them accepting a bid that they didn't actually want to accept. Now, let's take another approach and say that it's sending it to the wrong people, and then those people are able to be the ones that accept or deny from. I can't imagine that they would have such a security flaw, but if you could accept or deny from an email or from a notification, then we could have an issue where if people were able to figure out how to manipulate this and send it to themselves, they might be able to get like, land for free or something like that. So I'm actually curious about which process took place that this actually fucked up, because how do you mess up either the HTML template for your email to be sent out? Like, did you just appoint the wrong template to these notifications and emails? Like, I wonder how this happens, and how did it get past QA? Or like, how did you have such a lapse in your security and like your understanding of your system and model that you failed to send this to the right people? Like either way we look at this, it's such a, like, how do you do that? I'm curious how that even happens. Fixed an issue with the notification hub overlapping filters while operating in the bizarre section. Okay, so dude, these people cannot figure this shit out, bro. It's rough for them. Fixed an issue with the notification hub not being displayed correctly in the Hollow Building editor. Okay. So I wonder if they're just adding, like, the Hollow Building editor is like an overlay on top of whatever the other thing is, because if I remember correctly, they went to React, right? Or I guess any JavaScript could kind of work this way, but basically they could be just layering like different, basically like images or like resources over top of each other. So let's say someone clicks on the Hollow Building, it doesn't actually take them to like a new endpoint. It just like layers that Hollow Building display over top. And it could be that they fucked up the z-index on this, so that this Hollow Building thing was on top and this like notification hub was behind it, and so like it got all fucked up. I mean, that's super super easy to fix. Like I said, you just fix the z-index of that. But I mean, this isn't really that big of a deal. I mean, it depends on what actually this means, but they didn't say, so whatever. Fixed an issue not showing mentars in specific properties. I don't know how you mess that up. Like, so how bad is it? Like at this point, like is if you're like unable to build hollow buildings on your property because it's too small and they fuck that up, you can't see your mentars. So you're like, dude, do I even have mentars? How does this work? I can't put my jewels in my mentar. I should have already had a mentar by now. I spent so much money on here. This is fucking stupid. This is useless. Like at that point, it's like, yeah, did I fuck up now? You know, it's like, okay, so like I don't know. They are literally just fucking people over with how bad their implementations are. Fixed an issue not triggering an error message when payment processing fails. Like, I don't know how a lot of this stuff gets even into the system, right? Like, this stuff should have never even made it to production. Like, how the fuck? So, there's an error message that doesn't trigger when a payment fails. Like, how hard is that? Payment, you send the post or, you know, whatever method you're using to process this payment method, right? You send that over and you're like, hey, I want to pay for this, and then it sends back like, nope, didn't work. What method are they using to parse that data that this fucks up, right? Like how I'm trying to imagine how they're not able to like figure out which instance this doesn't work at, right? And how they're unable to display that failure to the screen. Like I'm having a hard time imagining that scenario. Fixed an issue displaying incorrect shards count. Okay. Removed by mentor button appearing when visiting other users' profile pages. That'd be funny if you could buy mentors for other users. It's like gifting them something. Fixed an issue not updating credit balance and essence if not manually refreshing the page. So we can get into a little bit of how development might work here, right? So let's say your page has only these information right here, like your credit balance and your essence on it, okay? And it's just like numbers on the middle of your screen. In JavaScript and React specifically, you could probably do this in other JavaScripts, but you can do what's called a hook, where if these values update, it basically refreshes the DOM, which is basically what this page is. It'll refresh that, and so that this thing will always be up to date with whatever happens. Now, it could be that they're using these hooks and that it's not updating because they're not reissuing the call. So, like anytime this updates, they would need to make a call to change this information so that the DOM can be refreshed. If they're not issuing that call, then obviously this doesn't get updated because it doesn't understand. Or it could be that they weren't using hooks at all, and so if you update this without a hook, once the page gets loaded, if like the rendering of this page doesn't know that it needs to re-render whenever this gets updated, like it's just going to stay the same, right? Like even if it changes, even if that number changes, let's say it's 100 and it changes to like 150, even if that value changes somewhere else, like in the back end, like you send that information, you're like, okay, so then actual value is 150. Like this page doesn't know it needs to refresh. It's still operating off the idea that that value is supposed to be 100. Like obviously if you're the way that you have this programmed is that it recalls that information every time the page gets refreshed, which is generally how these things kind of work, is that it's not going to keep that stuff as a cookie or in any kind of like local storage, because it could be like personal information that might be easy to grab, or sometimes it's just easier not to have too much stuff in memory, and so they don't want to use too many resources if they don't have to, so they'll just like have it happen every time you refresh the page. But yeah, so basically the issue is that this was something that probably that they had something that was set to get the information on a refresh or on a page load. Anytime you went to that page, it doesn't necessarily have to be a refresh, but anytime you went to that page, whether it's a refresh or like a link or you just follow through, this shit gets pulled from the back end and it gets updated. And they weren't using hooks on these data, and because of that, the DOM or the page itself wasn't re-rendering when it needed to when the stuff was updated. That's probably what happened here. Super basic thing. Again, I don't even know if I would put that as an update, but whatever. Fixed terms and conditions link in the cookie banner. Nice. Added blue jewel filter for the Jewels Bazaar tab. What do you mean blue jewel filter? So like now you just filter specifically. Why can't they just do a color filter? Like you choose any color. Like I'm a little confused about this. Maybe one of you Earth 2 nerds can tell me what the fuck that means. Fixed an issue showing an error message when clicking on some notifications. Again, very unspecific, so they didn't really say. But yeah, That's actually all the updates they had for November. So this, of course, if you listen to like people like Arya or like even the developers of this stuff, that they said like, oh, quarter two, or phase two, or whatever the fuck, they're like, oh, it's gonna be crazy, we're gonna have so much stuff going on, there's gonna be crazy stuff. I guess it would be quarter three or whatever, but either way, nothing's happening. They don't have any implementation in here. Nothing's really changing. Nothing's being added. Nothing's being updated. Really, they're fixing filters. I guess they added a crafting tab. Woo, good job. But there's not really resources or anything in the game to do much. They even fucked up how hollow buildings work and shit like that. So there's a lot of fucked up shit that they've done on this entire system. But if you agree with me or disagree with me, actually, yeah, anybody, please leave a comment down in the comment section. If you disagree with me, I'll have a debate or discussion with you in the comments. If you agree with me, leave a comment because it helps me in the algorithm, and that would be super sick. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know any other things that you'd like to see me talk about. Sometimes I'll get some ideas, like talking about other NFT games or like things that are interesting. I might even start talking about other things that might be scams and stuff like that. I don't know. It kind of depends on what you as viewers are interested in seeing. So let me know in the comments, or you can let me know by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.